The party has been traveling all day, the road long and wearying. As dusk falls, you spot the flickering lights of a roadside inn nestled among gnarled trees. The sign outside reads "The Dusty Tankard," its lettering faded with age. Stepping inside, you're greeted by the warm glow of lanterns and the scent of old wood and stale ale. Behind the bar stands a tall figure, his face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat, his skin weathered from years of tending the hearth, and he wipes the bar slowly with a rag, eyes flicking up to you, his voice gravelly and low as he speaks.
Well now, travelers, it's rare to see strangers pass through this way. What brings you to the old road?
He pauses, studying your party with a quiet intensity. Why exactly is it rare to see people here?
Yeah, that sounds a bit ominous.
The innkeeper leans in, voice barely above a whisper, and he informs you that not many people have been traveling to the area, at least not since the disappearances started. The man's words hang heavy in the air, and the fire crackles softly in the silence that follows. His eyes glint, betraying knowledge he has yet to share. Does he know more than he's letting on? And what exactly has been causing the disappearances in the area? Do you struggle with making memorable NPCs? Feels like there aren't really any new characters, it's just you saying things in slightly different tones and botched accents? Well, hopefully you'll find this episode of the podcast to be a little helpful. So, what are NPCs? NPCs are non-playable characters that inhabit the worlds of our games and make them feel alive and lived in. In my opinion, they play the most crucial part in developing someone's investment into your campaign. There's a commonly held belief in writing circles that says a story can have a bad plot as long as it has good characters, but not the other way around. You can have the most thought out world lore with a great plot and well thought out magic systems, but if the characters suck, then the stories will die out pretty quick. I happen to be a person that buys into this sentiment and believe that this translates into our tabletop games. So to put it simply, if NPC's good, player happy. Plus you have more fun as the game master acting out these characters. So let's talk about what makes a good character, and when I say good, what I really mean to say is a character that is well developed, interesting, memorable, or ideally all three of those things at the same time. I'm going to go over a few different ways to approach the process to maybe help you get the creative juices flowing, or bust out of writer's block if that's what's holding you up. Before we talk about different ways to create a character, let's just establish what makes one well developed. For that, I'll look to someone who's sold more books than I probably ever will, Brandon Sanderson. According to Mr. Sanderson, there are 3 things that make up the foundation to build a good character on. Those 3 things are proactivity, relatability, and capability. The character being proactive means that they are a driving force in the story. They move stories forward in some kind of way. A character that's relatable is pretty straightforward. We'll get into what can make a character relatable in a little bit, but I just need you to keep in mind that relatable does not equal likable. And finally, a capable character is one that has the power to display some type of agency in the world that they're in. Now that we have these concepts in mind, let's look at a few quick examples to help us remember the spirit of each of them. Proactivity is almost always the domain of protagonists and antagonists. In the context of tabletop games, that means your players and the bad guys, but they don't need to be the only ones that are proactive. Your other NPCs can show some kind of progression as well, which will make the game feel more alive. An easy example of this is maybe an NPC starts off the campaign as a low-level shopkeeper and finishes it as a business mogul and the main sponsor of the players perhaps. Relatability is one of those weird gray zones. Like I said earlier, relatable does not mean likable. but most of the time they do go hand in hand. I like to think of relatability as giving traits to a character, NPC, or thing that the players can sympathize or empathize with. Maybe the NPC has a similar background to one of your players. Maybe they're a bad guy, but they believe they have a good reason for doing the bad things that they do. Think Thanos in the movies and comics. Maybe the NPC is just goofy or quirky in a way that anyone would find endearing. Mr. Bean, Forrest Gump, and Captain Jack Sparrow fit in this description in their own ways. And finally, capability. Everyone is good at something. So, your NPCs should be good at something. It adds to the feeling of these characters being alive and unique. We can reference Game of Thrones to find tons of examples that demonstrate a character's capability. The Mountain is a massive weapon that just happens to be human-shaped. He uses his physical dominance to exert his will on his surroundings. Tyrion Lannister is a dwarf and he lacks all of the physical benefits most people enjoy. But he makes up for this with his intelligence and ability to sniff out other people's wants and desires. It also helps that he's from a filthy rich family and is more than willing to throw money at most of his problems. Give your NPCs something to be good at and give them chances to demonstrate that ability to the party. Now that we have a more robust understanding of what things make up a good character, let's explore some ways to put them into practice. Method 1. Look at the character sheet. If we look at the character sheet players use, we can find all the categories we need as GMs to make a good character. These categories are the name, race, personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws, and sometimes backstory. All you need is a name in one of the other categories and you're off to a good start. But obviously, the more of these categories you can answer, the more developed the NPC. These answers don't need to be super in-depth either, maybe 2 sentences max. Personally, I tend to answer these in a bullet point format. I find it to be slightly faster than having to read sentences describing a character. The more important a character is or becomes should determine the amount of these categories that need to be filled out. For example, let's say there's a man wearing ratty sorcerer's robes and a tattered blue hat with stars stitched all over it. His name is Bofo the Feeble, and his flaw is that he seems to be very sickly. Just with those 2 things, you probably already started coming up with ideas about this character and how to present them. Well, guess what? Your players are probably also coming up with ideas about what kind of NPC Bofo is. If you really want to add some depth so that all your NPCs don't instantly become humans the second your players ask about race, then you should consider always answering 3 categories, with name and race always being 2 of them. Method 1 requires some brain power behind it, so the next couple methods should be a bit easier to do. Method 2 is the quickest and most random. Just roll for it. In true tabletop fashion, find a roll table that contains the categories mentioned above, and just roll the dice. Let the little math rocks decide your NPCs, and your improv skills do the rest of the work. And finally, method 3, use a generator or AI. This may or may not be controversial. I don't think it should be, but you never know. Everyone has used a generator for one reason or another, like needing a list of dwarf names or names for literally everything. AI is just the next step past that. We're talking about our home games here. You don't need to sit there for hours trying to whip up everything from scratch, unless you really want to. I could understand being more upset about the use of AI if this was a big production like Critical Role or Dimension 20 or something. But for most of my listeners, we aren't getting paid for this, and we probably get bogged down by work a lot. So dedicating a ton of time to your custom NPC creation just may not be feasible. Don't feel bad about using AI to help you with your D&D campaigns. Try not to be overly reliant on it though. Creativity, writing, and critical thinking are skills, and if you don't use them, you'll lose them. Plus, if you have AI begin to write everything for you, the chances of you remembering those things is way smaller. I tend to only remember things that I've read and written down. So, now that we know about some methods for making an NPC, let's revisit our innkeeper from the start of the episode. I'll be using method 1, which is just using the character sheet as a reference and template. I'll mainly be focusing on just the name, race, personality, and backstory. Something extra I like to add to my NPCs are plot hooks to get the ball rolling on new adventures or storylines for the players to explore at some point, should they choose to do so. Making the character. The innkeeper's name is Garrick Thorne. A human man of few words, Garrick is known to the locals as someone who's seen more than he's willing to share, and his name carries a certain weight in the area, though few know the full story of what brought him to this remote part of the world. His eyes, sharp yet tired, suggest a man burdened by secrets which might intrigue the players further as they interact with him. Garrick's history and his connection to the mysterious disappearances around his inn could be key plot points the players uncover should they choose to investigate further. Personality. Garrick is deliberately vague. He speaks in cryptic tones, but the players who press him will notice his nervous glances towards the window, as if expecting something or someone at any given moment. This characteristic can potentially be brought up with either a successful perception or insight check. His backstory is that the innkeeper has lived here for decades, keeping the inn for passing travelers. Lately, he's seen far fewer guests, and the ones who do stay are often never seen again. He suspects dark magic or a curse, but he's too afraid to investigate it on his own. And the possible hooks are that the players could choose to investigate the disappearances, which might lead them to an ancient forest nearby where something sinister resides. Alternatively, the innkeeper might have ties to an underground smuggling ring, using his inn as a front, and the disappearances are actually people being sold off or taken to secret destinations. This scenario presents an NPC with potential hidden depths and sets up a mystery for the players to unravel, while also giving them a choice on how to proceed forward. And with that, we've created a character that hopefully the players find interesting and feels developed. Of course, you can only do so much with words on a sheet. The real work will be done when the DM or GM presents this NPC. Tone of voice, mannerisms, facial expressions, and body language all play a part in how all characters are perceived in a tabletop game. At the very least though, having something prepared ahead of time will keep you from fumbling too much when the players hit you with a curveball, and trust me, they will hit you with plenty of them every single session. Hopefully you found this episode entertaining or helpful next time you find yourself stuck while making a new NPC to introduce to your campaign. That concludes this episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, then like, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends. This is Myths, History, and D&D, and I hope you tune in next time.